Hello everyone, very excited to have you on this weekend. Very excited to have you over here at the Smart Investor. Why? Because I think it is time to really think what's going on and to make up your mind. Okay, so let me, as usual, I'm here to educate you, right? I'm here to explain to you what's going on. Not so much by telling you do this and do that. I'm not trying to predict the market here because nobody can. Okay, I know lots of people seem to be telling you that, but nobody could tell you how to predict the market. But you can take advantage of the market. You can take advantage of the market by making sure you understand what is the story out there. That is important. You need to know what it is that the market is thinking as to what is actually happening. Not that it's actually happening, but they're actually thinking it. So you need to know what they're thinking. You need to know what to do in case you are thinking the way they do. And the great thing about this is that it's binary choice. Either you're thinking like them or you're not, right? So the idea for you is to make sure you understand what they're doing. You understand what they're thinking about. Not so much trying to predict what's going to happen next, because you can't. One thing that you want to be doing, you want to be always buying when they're selling and selling when they're buying. That's very important. So you need to understand what's happening. You need to understand that you want to be the first one there, so it might not always be the more popular thing to do. For example, if you're thinking that if the market is thinking that this thing is going down and you're thinking, no, I think it's going to go up, you're going to be buying, right? While they're selling, which is great. The only thing is this what's truly happening? Because if that's not what's truly happening, you're buying for the wrong reasons. Exactly. So at the end, the reason what I'm saying is that the market is here, the reality is here, and you're there, right? So you want to make sure that if you're buying because you think things are going to go up and they're selling because they think things are going to go down, you want to make sure that things, whatever it is, goes up, so that you were the first one to buy when they thought it was going to, go down to the toilet. It wasn't going to the toilet, it's going to go up. So you're buying when everybody's out, so you're buying for cheap, and then you make a killing, right? And there's several ways to play this thing. You could play with stocks, you could play with options, and of course, at the end of the day, remember, on top of that, I'm sorry, there's a lot of things to remember, but stay with me on this, is you need to also protect your book, okay? And I will show you how to do that. So, what is it that we're thinking is happening? What is going on right now in August 24, like mid-August, almost the end is coming, and then the Fed is going to be talking next week, and then they're going to make decisions in September. So basically, there are two trains of thoughts, right? The first one is essentially we're looking at inflation under control. What does that mean? Well, it means that basically CPI came in at 0.2% month to month, 2.9% year over year, which is not much. It's in line with the 2% that he's looking for. We're getting there. Why did we go at 2.9% still? Shelter went up, education went up. What went down? Used cars went down, airfare went down, apparel went down. So overall, we went up, but we didn't go up that much. So looks like good news. If it's good news on the CPI front, which looks like it is, I mean, when you look at the numbers, it basically means that the Fed is going to lower rates. I don't think there's that much discrepancy in the market right now. Everybody thinks that, I think they beat this thing to death, right? They did 9 increases sometime since 22, 23. So this thing is under control. Fine. The big question is, about the recession. But let's talk about this in a few seconds. The second thing is retail sales are up by 1% in July. Meaning you guys are buying stuff. So that's good. Retails are up. That's good. And when we look at Walmart, which is a huge, company and representative of what people are willing to buy, Walmart had some good results and the stock went up. Very boring stock? I don't think so. So in addition to that, when we're thinking about the recession, because we're saying, this is under control, but what about recession? What's going to happen to recession? Because that's a concern. Well, when you look at the Atlanta Fed GDP, they're predicting 2.4% in the third quarter. Dallas Fed is projecting 2.3%. That's not a recession. We're growing. We're not growing as fast, but we're growing. So, and if you take a look at the weekly indicators, right, what about here? You will see that it's under control. It's not like it was in 2008 and all these years. So this whole thing seems to be under control as far as a recession was slowing down. Okay, so that's the good news. That's what people are saying. You guys got it wrong. You should be buying right now. You should be bullish. Is that what's happening? On the other side, on my left side, well, we're going to have cuts coming in September. That's a given for at least 0.25% basis points. So that means the Fed is going to lower the rates. So everybody's going to be happy. Nothing's going to happen to the stock market because we are expecting it. Issue that you're having is that the P/E ratio where we are today, the P/E ratio is at 35. That's high. Look at the chart. Look at compared to last time we were that high. I mean, we're willing to spend $35 for every dollar of earning. That's a lot. We have never spent that much before. Second, they're basically saying, and when I say they, I'm thinking Goldman, Jimmy Dimon, some of the big guys. They're basically saying that, yeah, I know, everything seems to be under control, but you ain't seen nothing yet. Because historically, the Fed has always waiting too long to lower rates. But you say, well, I'm not seeing it. Well, obviously you're not seeing it because you don't see everything, right? Remember what I tell you. We're looking at data that is not now. It's backward looking, right? We're measuring a month in advance, behind, so we don't know what's happening today. And that's a question you need to wonder. That is what you need to wonder and ask yourself. What's really happening today? What's really happening today is everything is fine. Look at the plus sign, right? And the minus sign is they're thinking that the Fed has waited too long historically. And therefore, this machine is going to collapse. We're slowing down already, as you could see, but they're going to say, yeah, but we're not slowing. We don't have 3.8. We have 2.4, 2.3. We're still growing. We don't have a recession. Take it easy. No. What's going to happen? You're not seeing it. It's happening because historically the Fed has not been able to control. They always waited too long to cut rates. Remember Volcker in the 70s. He put this country in a recession because he cut, waited for the recession, and then stopped. You say, okay, now everything is under control in terms of inflation is concerned. Exactly. He waited too long. But the reason is they do not care. The Fed does not care about recession. They care about inflation. As long as he beat inflation, then he did a good job. Sorry, you're in a recession. Okay, that's the first thing. So Goldman, to that extent, right, putting these things together, is thinking maybe there's a 25% chance of recession. Jamie Dimon, the chair of JP Morgan, is thinking between 35 and 40%. So their view, right, also there was only $114,000 jobs created in terms of employment. Now, it's again, we're creating jobs, but not as many as before. Now, of course, the other side of the plus side, they're thinking, no, but don't worry about it because we didn't have, unemployment went down, but the unemployment went up, but it went up because there were lots of people that came in, immigration, and a lot of people that were off the grid came back in the grid because of the money and whatever advantages they had during COVID. They're slowly coming back. Don't forget this COVID thing. There was a lot of money that was thrown into the system that created this huge amount of inflation for good reason. Obviously, and we're stuck in your house, you need money and everything else. But at the end of the day, that number, that $114,000, 40,000 job creators is not enough. And then on the other side, they say, yeah, but a lot of people weren't fired either. That the unemployment went up because this is how you see, you measure this thing is the unemployment. The employment went up because there were more people coming in, not because a bunch of people got fired. So that's it, but it's two different views, right? The first view is really data driven, right? The other view is more, yeah, but you ain't seen nothing yet. It's coming. And they're like, but when it's coming? When are we going to see it? Well, you'll see. So now as an investor, you got to decide what to do. Because if this recession is coming and you're sitting on a portfolio where the P ratio is 35, you thought that 1,000 points was bad 2 weeks ago, forget it, right? They're going to get killed in the market. Because on top of that, an additional layer that Jamie Dimon actually brought up into one of his articles is the fact that we owe 35 trillion. Is the fact that the deficit is $1.5 trillion. The deficit is how much money you're spending versus how much money you're bringing in, right? And every year you have $1.5 trillion. Now, I know you don't care because I'm not paying for it. Well, not right now, you're not, right? Because what they do is they go into the treasury market, they raise debt to finance this deficit, unless they decide to raise taxes. And now, one thing you need to understand that is very important is the fact that one way to fight this, I mean, the deficit is the difference, but then also you have the amount of debt, which is 35 trillion. One way to combat this, to fight this, is that if you have growth in the economy, right, then you collect more taxes because you make more money, then you're able to pay off more. That's one way to kind of fight it. I mean, not the greatest way, just to have to raise taxes, raise more taxes. But I don't need to raise taxes because we're going to make more money because the economy is doing great. Okay, fine. But the point is that if it doesn't work, you need that growth. And don't remember what's happening. The amount of money is still there. The 35 trillion is still there, right? The only thing is the growth is dropping. So that cannot be good to fight this deficit, as long as you believe that anyone cares about the deficit. If nobody cares about it, just keep borrowing the money. Who cares? We're the U.S. We have a good credit card. They'll keep lending us, so then it's not an issue. But what happens when it becomes an issue? What happens if on Monday morning they decide that, you know what, this is an issue? Why would they decide that? Well, I mean, Jamie Dimon wrote an article, I think it was last week, and he said, we got to do something about this deficit. And then a couple of people are talking about it. And then last week, we had an issue placing some of that debt. $25 billion. They had to pay up the interest to attract the buyers because people say, we're full with U.S. debt. We wonder if you're going to pay us back at some point. So if you have an issue with that, if you're not able to raise the debt and you're not able to pay, that's going to be an issue. And if that becomes an issue, then the market is going to say, was focusing on the recession, employment, inflation, the Fed is doing this. Then the market may decide to look at the deficit and the national debt. If they start looking at that, then all bets are off, right? Because what do you want to get? You got two people trying to become president, right? Do you hear anybody saying what they're going to do about the national debt? You hear about everything else except that. Because what are you going to say? Okay, you know what? I want to be elected president. So what we're going to do is we have to fight the national debt. So what we have to do, A, we're going to raise taxes. B, we're going to extend your retirement age. C, we're going to lower how much money you're supposed to get for retirement. You're never going to get elected. Forget the president, senators, congressmen and everybody else, right? So nobody wants to talk about it. So you don't have to talk about it. That's fine. But to make money in the stock market, you need to know what's going to happen before it happens. And you need to bet properly. So if you believe that everything's going to be fine, CPI is great, retail sales, Walmart, recession is out of sight, these people don't know what they're talking about, you're missing an opportunity, keep buying, take a look at my SPY call, which is going to be doing very well. Like if you want to do, I'm looking at a December call, right? December 24. So it's going to rise pretty quickly as it gets close to December. So here you could get some significant gain very quickly. Now be careful, because it expires in December. So make your money and get out. But also what you can do is, get onto a bunch of low PE stocks. There's a lot, and I gave it to you. I gave you Romaco, Miller, Vulcan, Powell, ACM Research. Look at my previous videos. These are companies that are low PE. They're kind of small stocks, small caps, and they're doing quite well. And they should benefit from this and keep on going. And even if it's small company stock, they have no debt. Therefore, it is good for you. On the other hand, if you're like, well, you know what? I think the Fed is waited too long. A lot of people are saying that on social media. And so therefore, we haven't seen it yet, but this wave is coming. This tsunami is coming. And my God. And on top of that, it's going to be pushed with the national debt issues. And then we have an election. And then on top of that, who knows if we're going to have a war in the Middle East. This thing hasn't been resolved. This thing is going to collapse and crash. And that 25 basis points is not going to be enough. And then the Fed is going to do 50. And people are going to say, oh my God, I told you they knew. We do have a problem. So in that case, you could do a put on the SPY. So you benefit if the market drops. And if it drops quickly, so the short data you put, the more leverage position you have, the faster you could make and also lose money. But you can also do the low PE stocks and the small cap stocks and the stocks that I've offered to you that are pretty good in terms of the financials. So these are the both of your options that you have. And it's important to understand them, because if you think that things are going to do well and you invest accordingly and they actually do well ultimately, meaning we don't have a recession, we just have a slowdown. But I will say that even if we don't have a recession and everything, the unemployment was caused by the reason that I indicated before, you still have to deal with the national debt. That's another one that's kind of hanging. And I don't know when. I mean, technically, we could refinance for the next 5 to 10 years. I mean, we have about 9 years before Social Security run out of money and we have to do something, right? Look at that. I did a video on that. I mean, you need to understand these things. You can't be an investor and say, okay, well, tell me what to do. I got to become a millionaire. No. What you need to do is you need to understand, and then you need to think about it. You need to ruminate it. The thing is, we have this, and this is very difficult to establish when people are going to start focusing on it. We know it's bad. We know this a lot, but maybe we haven't been dealing it for years. So I guess we should look at it when it becomes $56 trillion. Then it's a problem. But if people keep giving us money, why not? Then, of course, you have the issue of you have a war, right? We don't know who is going to be become president, and what is he going to do about Ukraine? What are they doing with the Middle East? Are we helping them, giving them money to fight? And what if they fight and we have to help them against it, and then we get involved in a fight, and then there's a war in the Middle East or the war with Russia? You know what I mean? So it's easy to deal with the CPI, retail sales. The Fed is lowering and lowering or raising because it's right there. You understand it. You could see it. The other stuff is kind of hovering around. And the thing that you always have to be careful. You must always be careful what you don't know. You need to look for that black swan out there, the one that no one is talking about. That's what you need to think about. That's what you need to learn. That is what you need to be aware. So think about this for next week. Let's look at next week. There is a meeting over on the West Coast having to do with the Fed. Let's see what the Fed is saying. Maybe they're talking a good game and they give us a feel what's going to happen next. But always make sure you educate yourself. Make sure you don't try to predict the market. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like as well.